Hi guys, welcome to another video. So are you looking for a PlayStation style controller with Hall effect thumbsticks? Then this Fantech Nova II WGP 16 controller might be it for you. So I'm gonna review how it compares against another pretty popular Xbox controller, Gamesir Cyclone 2, as well as against the standard DualShock 4. Okay. And before that, let's play like the unboxing. So this simple unboxing experience while I maybe grab a DualShock 5 for comparison. Okay, and I'm back. So the unboxing is pretty standard. Maybe I'll just play it a little bit faster, like 2x. So it comes in a pretty like standard box. So I've already cut away the tape, and yeah, I have to cut away the tapes on the both sides as well. So we'll skip forward a little bit. So inside there is a black USB-C cable, USB-C to the small USB-C. So sorry, USB-A to USB-C cable. Some simple quick start guides, which is not too bad. And yeah, so it's a black cable, which is pretty stiff, but it's pretty short as well. It is only about how long is it? Like 1 meter, 1 meter long cable. So it's decently short, and you have the controller itself. Comes in a simple bag, and there are two sponges to protect the thumbsticks. Okay, so in terms of feel, this one I will probably do it here in front of the mic. Let me do this. Okay, let's see whether I can see it. Okay. Okay, so this is the Fantech Nova II WGP 16. So let's go through the feel first. Buttons are definitely tactile, so there's a good tactile express on the buttons. I believe the buttons are still membrane. Comparing to, this is a DualShock 5, so dimension wise it's actually quite comparable to a DualShock 5. DualShock 5 buttons are quieter, but I would say the DualShock buttons are also similar tactile experience. The buttons on the Fantech Nova 2 are a little bit more tactile, but a bit harder to press. Comparing to a DualShock 4, I would say nothing beats the button experience on the DualShock 4. Like the DualShock 4 buttons are light as well as it's tactile as well. Take note that mine is not an original DualShock 4. It is kind of like a cheapened, like a Chinese clone DualShock 4, but it works exactly and feels very similar. Just that not as dense as the original DualShock 4, because I already lost my original DualShock 4. So in terms of button tactile feel, I would say that the DualShock 4 is definitely superior. This is a little bit, it feels harder to press, but has a similar tactile experience. In terms of D-pad, so D-pad is pretty quiet. DualShock 5. DualShock 5 has the best D-pad experience in my opinion. It has this plastic coated buttons comparing to a DualShock 4. Yeah, DualShock 4's D-pad is the squishiest among the three. In terms of D-pad experience, I would say the original DualShock 5 has the best D-pad like feel. All three of them D-pads are relatively silent. How about thumbsticks? Okay. The thumbsticks for the Fantech Nova II WGP 16 is really smooth compared with DualShock 5. The DualShock 5's is take note that the Fantech's one is Hall effect sticks, and on the DualShock 5 as well as DualShock 4, these are potentiometer sticks. So on both the DualShock 4 sticks are a little bit looser. DualShock 5 sticks are a little bit tighter. It needs a little bit more strength to move around. But in terms of like feel, like smoothness, I would say the Fantech Nova 2's analog sticks are the smoothest. Yeah, they feel the smoothest, they feel the easiest to move. So yeah, the smoothness of the Hall effect controllers definitely come in here. Okay, what else? So in terms of like the D-pad here, so on the so-called the touchpad, there's actually a small like embossing on, yeah, if you see as it reflects the light, there's a pattern embossing on it on the Fantech Nova 2, which is actually really nice detail. Very nice detail on it. I can't really tell what the embossing is. I think the embossing is like replicas of his Fantech logo, but it's actually a really nice touch. And when you touch across the touchpad, it's pretty smooth as well. Like you don't really feel it. You feel a little bit of the texture, but not by much. Buttons here are okay. Trigger buttons such as the shoulder and trigger buttons. Shoulder buttons feel mechanical, like they feel like a mouse switch compared to shoulder buttons on the DualShock 5, the PS5 controllers. PS5 controllers, shoulder buttons are membrane, while its trigger sticks are pretty long trigger. Comparing to the Fantech's triggers, I would say the DualShock 5 triggers has a little bit more resistance to it compared to the DualShock 4. DualShock 4 shoulder buttons feel the worst. They have a very loose feel to it. Like they're membrane as well, but have very loose feel. I would say out of all these, I would think that the Fantech Nova 2's shoulder buttons actually feel better than the DualShock 5. They feel the best. Like they have this very tactile, like mouse click kind of feel, but it is down to preference. So the membrane buttons on the DualShock 5 does feel pretty satisfying as well. Like you have this membrane and tactile feedback. So yeah, it is a pretty preference thing. I would say both DualShock 5 as well as the Fantech Nova 2 feel just as good. For the trigger buttons, I would say the DualShock 5's triggers still feel superior, because I remember on the DualShock 5 for certain games you also have like haptic feedback on the triggers whereby they can actually increase the resistance of the triggers. So we don't have that on the Fantech Nova 2. So the Fantech Nova 2's triggers feel pretty loose, similar to like the standard triggers on the DualShock 4. So that's that for the feel test and the aesthetics. So in terms of aesthetics, the controller I have here is in gray, but if we go into their website or this AliExpress, you actually have three options. You have the white, black, and the gray option. So personally, I just bought the gray option because the color scheme really screams like the retro PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 controllers to me. So the PS1 and PS2 controllers are in gray and it has this very retro PlayStation feel to it. So I really like this color scheme, gray. Okay, then let's talk a bit more about the Fantech. Okay, let's see here. So if you go to Fantech's website, you will see that actually among products, let's go to console. Yeah, Fantech actually sells a lot of controllers. So this is actually the Nova II WGP 16. It says here that it's selling for about $30 USD, but on the website it's actually more expensive than if you order from AliExpress, because price-wise, if you see on AliExpress, actually we can get it for around 30 plus SGD. So I mean it's comparable, but if you take $30, like $31 USD and convert it into SGD, it should be actually more than 32 Singapore dollars. So the cheapest you can find it is about 32, 33 Singapore dollars, which is pretty cheap. I got mine about few weeks ago, like on beginning of December for only about $30. After shipping is about 33. So it's not too bad because it's before shipping. So not too bad. Like in terms of price, after GST and all that, this will probably add up to about 35, 36. So pretty decent budget controller. And in terms of testing later, you can skip to the testing part later in the video. I'll be testing it against this. This is the Gamesir Cyclone 2, which is a lot more expensive. So the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is about double the price. Cheapest you can find in the market is about 53, 54 Singapore dollars. That's before GST. So even if it comes with free shipping after GST, you're looking to pay about 57, 58. It's close to 60 Singapore dollars. So effectively, the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is about double the price of the Fantech Nova 2. And you will see a difference in their performance later, like why you're paying like double the price for the Gamesir Cyclone 2. Okay. So what I did here, maybe let me move my camera out of the way. So here it's a video comparison between three of these controllers, which I've recorded them in the same game, which is Elden Ring Night Rain 2. Elden Ring Night Rain. There's no Night Rain 2. So in Elden Ring Night Rain, which is a multiplayer version of Elden Ring, so I recorded this in the testing range, using the three separate controllers. And what you can see is that the controllers are shown on the bottom, and the character movement are shown on the top. Maybe let me just view. Okay. So in this part, we'll try and see and compare, like in terms of the response time. But honestly, it is pretty difficult to tell, like based on just looking at it physically, right? Like which controller has the best response time. So on the Gamesir Cyclone 2 on our extreme left is, in theory, in terms of specs, it is the most responsive one. And for those who are a little bit eager-eyed, maybe you can spot like the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is just slightly more responsive than the Fantech Nova 2. With, in theory, on the spec sheet, DualShock 4 is supposed to be the least responsive. But just looking at it physically, honestly, let me just play the clip again. So honestly, I really can't tell, even if I study in this, even I look at the videos. Okay. Now that I look at it a little bit more, like the DualShock 4 does seem to be a little bit more laggy in terms of response, especially when I click the shoulder buttons on the DualShock 4. It does seem like the attacks come out just a fraction of a second later than if I click on the buttons for like the Nova 2 as well as the Gamesir Cyclone. Because honestly, when I play with all these controllers in-game, I do feel like the DualShock 4 is a little bit slower in terms of response times by just a little bit. And I honestly feel no difference between the Gamesir Cyclone 2 as well as the Fantech Nova 2. Like to me, the Fantech Nova 2 feels just as responsive as the Gamesir Cyclone. But then let's take a look at the polling rate. Okay, so now let's look at the polling rate difference between the three. So I'll just play a video clip of how I got these results. So if you actually go to, like, if you search up for like how to test latency online, it will actually guide you to Gamepad LA, which is a website there. And on Gamepad LA, maybe let me move my face to this side. Yep, they have a program that you can actually download. It's called Polling, and it's the easiest desktop program that you can run. You can just download the exe, just run it on your desktop. And what it does is that you run the exe, and you will just have to move the thumbsticks in order to get a response. So in this case, yep. So you choose whether you want to test the left thumbstick or the right thumbstick. And so this case is a test of the Fantech Nova 2. So you choose the number of tests to run, whether you want to test the left or right thumbstick based on choosing the numbers. And you just need to rotate. As you can see on this part of my screen, I'm just rotating it, and you will have a result here. So you'll run 2000 tests, and after you finish the test, it will give you a millisecond and the polling rate. So in terms of the response, the lower the average interval, the lower the millisecond, means the faster the response time, and the higher the polling rate, it also means the faster the response times. So polling rate is how many times it polls the system, how many times it gives an input to the system, and so on. So let's take a look at the results. Okay. So these are the polling rates. So for the DualShock 4, which is unfortunately I could only get it to work in a wired mode. So for the DualShock 4 to work on the PC, I had to run a program called DS4, which is another free program you can download online. And the DualShock 4 polling rate is only at 82 Hz, which is the lowest among all the three controllers I've tested. The average refresh interval is also the longest at 12 milliseconds. So I was only able to test the DualShock 4 on my PC in the wired mode and not on the Bluetooth mode. If I try to like enable the Bluetooth and I use my Bluetooth on my PC to try and detect it, it just couldn't detect, even if DS4 running. So wired mode is supposedly the fastest polling rate, but still it is pretty slow at 12 milliseconds on an average refresh interval. So we are talking about the Fantech Nova II WGP 16. When it's on wired mode, the polling rate is 230 Hz, and the average refresh interval of both the left and right sticks are about 4.3 milliseconds, 4 milliseconds. On Bluetooth, when connected to the PC, it is a little bit slower. So the polling rate is only 160 Hz on both the left and right sticks. Average about 6 millisecond interval. So definitely it is a little bit more laggy in terms of Bluetooth connection as compared to wired. So if you want the best response time for this PlayStation style controller, best to use it wired. But honestly, at 2 millisecond difference in-game, while playing Elden Ring Night Rain, I can't really feel much of a difference at all. So I don't really feel much of a difference. Then we are talking about the Gamesir Cyclone 2, which is double the price of our Fantech controller. Using the 2.4 gigahertz dongle, same for, I couldn't get it to work on Bluetooth. It just couldn't connect to my PC for whatever reason. But I tested it with 2.4 gigahertz dongle. The polling rate was the best at 975 on the left analog stick. Both on left and right is about 1000, it's near to 1000 Hz. So about 1 megahertz in terms of polling rate. And the average refresh interval was only 1 millisecond, which is really good. And then when I did it wired as well, the Gamesir Cyclone 2 wired, it's also about 1000 megahertz refresh. The polling rate, 1000 megahertz polling rate. 1000 hertz polling rate, not 1000 megahertz, 1000 hertz polling rate, and average refresh interval of similarly 1 millisecond. So in terms of latency, the Gamesir Cyclone 2, which is the one that I have here, is actually the most responsive, but take note that it is at double the price and it is on the Xbox interface. The main reason I paid for the Fantech Nova 2 is because I wanted a PlayStation 4 style controller to play my Elden Ring games, my Souls-like, as well as my other games on controller, because I grew up playing like Souls-like games such as Bloodborne on the PlayStation 4, and also before that I had a older console in terms of PlayStation 2. So I was very used to the PlayStation controller scheme. And when I was playing Elden Ring on my PC, I was also using DS4 and I was actually playing it using the DualShock 4. So my experience with playing Souls-like games on PC as well has always been, on PC as well as PlayStation, has always been the PlayStation style controller. So which is why this. So why the Fantech 2 is a decently good recommendation is because it's, in terms of latency wise, it's not the best. You can see that it loses out to a competitor like the Gamesir Cyclone 2. But it is not bad for its price, because for its price at 30 Singapore dollars, it's a really cheap budget controller. It does have Hall effect sticks, and I've tested the circularity on it. Maybe we want to do a test to demonstrate the circularity. Okay, so this is a gamepad tester software, and right now the controller that's connected is the Fantech Nova 2. So we'll test the circularity to determine how good it is. You can see that it's pretty responsive, and if you test circularity, yep. So average error of about 0.4, and then on the right analog stick, okay, average error about 0.3. Okay, so this is for Fantech, the Fantech controller. The rest of the buttons obviously will respond properly. Okay, then the next one we're testing here is the Gamesir Cyclone 2. So, wait, let me test the circularity first. So you can see that the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is the one that's connected on 2.4 gigahertz dongle. And let's test the circularity here. Okay, so spin the joystick slowly to test. It's kind of hard for me to spin it like this. Okay, so I'll just spin it. Okay, average error about 0.6, 0.4. Then the other analog stick. So spin it slowly. About 0.1. So in terms of average error, I would say it is similar to the Gamesir Cyclone 2. This like a hallmark of the Hall effect sticks, which gives you very little average error. So to do a comparison, let me test a DualShock 4. Okay, so now we are comparing the DualShock 4 controller, which you can see is connected. Okay, so we'll test the circularity of the DualShock 4. Okay, so DualShock 4 Thumb 6 has an average error of 16%. Take note that DualShock 4 is running on potentiometer thumbsticks. Okay, and then the right thumbstick also has an average error of about 16%. So for the DualShock 4 controllers, it's on potentiometer. It's definitely incomparable to Hall effect controllers, which almost has almost 0% average error, like 0.1, 0.2. Let's see whether I can test a DualShock 5. Okay, then next up we have the DualShock 5. So you can see our DualShock 5 controller is connected. So let's test the circularity of the DualShock 5. Take note that DualShock 5, the stock DualShock 5 is also on potentiometer sticks. Okay, so average error of about 7% on the left analog stick, and on the right analog stick, yep. So also average error of about 7 to error is increasing. It's about 8%. So definitely on the DualShock 5, we also don't have really good error rate. Take note the DualShock 5 is also on potentiometer sticks. It's also at about 7 to 8% error rate. So definitely in terms of error rate, a controller like the Fantech Nova II is... Oh, my face cam has hung again. Okay, so generally speaking, the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is, I would really highly recommend it at this price. It is extremely good value at about 30 to probably 36 Singapore dollars. You're getting a really budget controller with really good quality Hall effect sticks. In terms of the the performance, like the polling rate, it cannot match something like the Gamesir Cyclone 2. But take note that the Gamesir Cyclone 2 is double its price at double its price, and it's also an Xbox layout, which is actually not common. So if you actually search online, like what prompted me to search to find the Fantech Nova 2 in the first place is this. If you actually Google for like PlayStation, let's do PlayStation controller with Hall effect, or Hall effect PlayStation controller, for example. A slide to verify. Let's see what results come up. Yep, not too bad. So on AliExpress, like this is PlayStation controller. I don't know whether those are Hall effect sticks or not. This one, yeah, Fantech Nova 2 is one of the search results here. We have a few. This one I also don't know whether it's Hall effect sticks or not. I don't know what brand is it. Yeah. So on AliExpress we can find a few cheap ones, but these are this is pretty expensive. This is also pretty affordable. I don't know whether it is Hall effect sticks. You have to check it out. But if you actually do a Google, like let's say I Google for Hall effect PlayStation controller. Yeah, so I have a recommendation from here. Which actually I remember watching this video by Classical Technology, and he's recommending this at 250 USD controller, which is really expensive. Any other PlayStation controllers here? The Turtle Beach one is also really expensive at 200 over Singapore dollars. What else can we find? Yeah. So initially when I did the search, the PlayStation controllers that I could find with Hall effect was pretty expensive. And the other recommendations was I saw a lot of like how should I say like recommendations for replacing the potentiometer sticks on your PlayStation DualShock 5. So let's say Hall effect, let's say PlayStation controller. Yeah, we don't have it here. But when I initially did a Google search on it, yeah, I could only see a lot of these expensive controllers recommended, as well as probably the sort of like the Hall effect thumbsticks. That means a lot of the recommendations that Google gave to me was to actually replace the Hall effect thumbsticks in PlayStation 4. Replace the potentiometer thumbsticks in PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 by soldering, which is not something that most people want to do. Even though some of those TMR or Hall effect sticks are actually really cheap, it's quite a fair bit of work, right? But you will eventually improve the stick drift, like minimize the stick drift and all that. So in conclusion, the Fantech Nova II WGP 16 is a pretty budget-friendly PlayStation style controller with Hall effect sticks. And in terms of performance, even though it's not as good as the Gamesir Cyclone 2, it is good enough. I would say at a polling rate, when I'm playing in-game in like Souls games such as Elden Ring, Night Rain, I don't notice any significant like improvement in performance when using the Gamesir Cyclone 2 as compared to using the Fantech Nova 2. But I do prefer using the Fantech Nova 2 better because I'm very used to the PlayStation layout, like the control scheme, and this is what I'm gonna use from now on to play all my like Souls games such as Elden Ring and other controller games on my PC. Okay, and thank you for watching. We'll see you guys in the next review.